into overtime. This is only the second Super Bowl to ever go into overtime. 50 being, was it 50 that was the first one, Colin?
51. The
51.
Patriots Falcons, yeah.
Yeah. New rules this year for overtime in playoffs. Your thoughts on how that worked out this year and your thoughts on players saying they were confused.
Yeah, so the rules were different, but it basically played out the same way it did back in 2012 when they first started this. So I don't get how players were necessarily confused because the Niners went down, kicked a field goal, and then the Chiefs scored a touchdown. And it's the same that it was back in 2012 when they first implemented that. Personally, I had no problem with the decision by Shanahan to take the ball first. I look at it like this. If you're the Niners, you stop the Chiefs every drive. They only scored one touchdown all game. They only scored one touchdown before overtime. And that was on a fluke play. It was a punt that went off the guy's leg. So they hadn't really driven down the field on their own accord all game. All you have to do is hold them to 3. And if you hold them to 3, you get the ball a second possession, and it's sudden death at that point.
Sudden death, yeah.
Now, if the rules were if each team gets one possession, then each team gets a second possession, no, you kick. If it was like last year's Super Bowl where the Chiefs scored a touchdown every single drive in the second half, besides the very end where they just ran the clock, kick a field goal, yeah, you take the ball second, so you know what you need to do. But under this system, the way the game was going, I had no problem with it. I really, the math says otherwise, and on top of that, you have to remember that the game regulation ended with the Chiefs going on an 11-play drive or 12-play drive. If you take the ball second, you have to send your defense back on the field. It's tough enough stopping Mahomes. You're going to have to stop him after your defense has been gassed after being on the field for 12 straight plays. They're going to be out for like 24 straight plays at that point.
Right.
It
You're
wouldn't be
running
feasible.
backups by then.
It wouldn't be feasible. So I have no problem with the decision.
Yeah.
McCaffrey said repeatedly after the game, there's no good way to lose a Super Bowl.
No, there's
Right?
not.
There's no good way to lose a Super Bowl. And then the questions kept coming at him about his team losing double-digit leads. And then he was like, you know what? We've only lost twice. And it was to Mahomes, arguably, one top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL by the numbers, and once to Tom Brady. So stuff happens. I think Colin gives a great explanation for why Shanahan opted to do what he did. It makes sense, but I think it all goes back to coaching. I don't think that the players on the field, probably on both teams, I just don't think that they had a really good grasp. Well, it's not me thinking. It's like, this is Monday morning quarterbacking, right? I have the benefit of looking at their comments. So it was clear that the organizations did not do a good job. The coaches did not do an effective job as it relates to making sure that everybody understood what was going on as far as the overtime stuff. There's no good way to lose it. They put up a hell of a fight. I personally like these overtime rules.
I like that they added both teams must have a possession regardless.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everybody gets an opportunity to win.
Colin, how long do you think it will be before the NFL goes and says, we're going to play 10 minutes, the full 10 minutes, regardless of how much scoring there is, like the NBA and the NHL do?
I don't think it's ever going to happen. They tried that back in the 90s with NFL Europe, and it didn't really work. I think what we're going to see, I think playoffs is going to stay the same, but I think regular season, I think there's going to be an incentive coming up soon. I think within the next 10 years, the rules will change for the regular season to be okay. We don't want games going past 4:25. We don't want games taking more than 3.5 hours, so you miss the ending of a game. So we're going to do shootout style like XFL or USFL or the UFL, whatever it's called now. They're gonna do it like that. I think that's the next change. But for playoffs, I think it's gonna be like hockey, where they do like a shootout, but for the playoffs they play the way it is now.
Right.
The longer those players are on the field,
the more chance of getting hurt.
And the sloppier it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that the NFL would ever go back to saying, okay, no overtimes in
Never.
regular season to prevent injury?
Fans wouldn't stand for it.
No. The standings were part of what also makes the NFL so great and easy to understand for the fans is that, okay, an 11-win team gets in over a 10-win team, gets in over a 9-win team, and all that. You look at the standings back when there was no overtime. You got teams with multiple ties. You got weird scenarios. You had a scenario back in the 60s where a team had 10 wins and a team had 7, and you had the team with 7 control their own destiny. It was backwards. It was absolutely backwards.
Yeah.
So they're never going back to that.
The benefit of hindsight.
Yep.
Right. So overall, what would you give the grade of the game played on the field and the coaching from the sidelines? What grades would you give those?
The game itself, I give a B+. I think the first half was not very good. I think it was a lot like Super Bowl 23, where the first half, maybe even the first 3 quarters, very sloppy, very boring game, and then the ending was just incredible.
And you actually did a video about how these 2 games were so similar.
Yeah. The coaching, I would say, the end of the first half, I had a major problem with the clock management at the end of the first half. I don't know why the Chiefs called a timeout that late. And then I don't know why the Niners didn't try calling timeout, try to get the ball back, steal an extra possession from Mahomes. That one I didn't understand at all. So I'd say coaching-wise, and players were confusion with the OT rules and everything. Shanahan didn't give the ball to McCaffrey until the very end of the game, even though it was working.
Confusing.
Yeah, I would. And then obviously Travis Kelce not being on the field for the Isaiah Pacheco fumble. You don't get him involved in the offense in the first half whatsoever. I would say coaching-wise, probably a C. This was not a very well-coached Super Bowl on both sides.
Yeah, what was up with Travis Kelce almost knocking what's his name over, Andy Reid?
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, he should be on the field on every single play unless he needs a breather. He definitely didn't need a breather on that one.
Yeah, I mean, Kelce's Mahomes' most reliable receiver when you look at it.
Well, everybody knows that too. And I don't know if that's where Andy's head was, but coaching. First of all, that Niners defense. I mean, how many times did they get to Patrick in that game?
3 sacks. 3 sacks.
3 sacks.
Was it only 3?
Only 3, but a lot of pressure, but 3 sacks. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as pressure him and getting him out of that pocket and they really had an impact, obviously on his play. They couldn't sustain it, and so for me, that's the issue. Know your personnel. Know who you're dealing with, and you put the ball in Patrick's hands, and you give him a shot to go out there and do his thing. He's going to figure it out at some point. I mean, that's his history. He's shown that consistently. But yeah, I think I hate to blame Shanahan for the outcome of this, but I don't know how you cannot put most of the blame on this loss in his lap.
Yeah, it's a very different game if Dre Greenlaw doesn't get hurt on that fluke play. It's a very different game.
That's very true.
The moment he went down, everything changed with the Chiefs' offense moving the ball down the field.